I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and this is my review and installation of the Aries Automotive Tubular Fenders fitting all 2007 and up JKs. These fenders are sold as a pair. What you see in front of me here is just one of the rear flares, but the front flares are available as well. Today we're going to talk through the installation of these fender flares, which I am giving a 2 out of 3 wrenches. It will probably take you an hour or more per pair to get these bolted onto your Jeep, and there may be some drilling involved, but we'll talk more about the install in just a second. We're also going to talk through the construction and a few of the features of these flares. Adding a flat fender flare to your Jeep can provide some additional up travel. Depending on your tire size and your lift setup, when you're flexing off-road with the front sway bars disconnected, your front tire may make contact with your front fender flare, which can pop that flare off, leaving it on the side of the trail. Having a flat flare will give you some of that additional up travel before you have any clearance issues. Now, there are a few different thoughts about flat fender flares, or really fender flares in general. One is that a metal flare, or aluminum in this case, will hold up a lot better than a plastic flare will to rubbing against obstacles on the trail. The other thought is that a solid flare like this that won't bend or break like a plastic flare will end up transferring any contact from the flare into the body of the Jeep, causing a much more expensive repair. So it really comes down to which school of thought you fall into. If you're somebody who likes the idea of a nice, strong metal flat fender flare, this is going to be a really nice option for you. This is a really well-built flare that is also aluminum, which is going to help to keep weight down and also help it to resist rust and corrosion, all without being that much more expensive than some of the metal flares on the market. As far as construction goes, these are going to be, as I said before, a T6 aluminum flat flare. So again, they are going to be lighter weight than a steel flat fender flare, but they're also going to do a nice job of resisting rust. Now, aluminum can still corrode if it's exposed to the air. So if you were to scratch some of this powder coat off, you can still get some corrosion, but you're not going to get rust like you would with a steel flare, which in my opinion is a nice feature. Now, aluminum can often be a lot more expensive than steel, but in this case, these flares aren't that much more than a steel flare of the same design, so I think that this is a nice option for you. This is going to be covered in a textured black powder coat finish, which is pretty standard for aftermarket parts for your Jeep. It's going to match a lot of those other aftermarket parts and also match your factory plastic black accents that are on your Jeep right out of the factory. Now, these flares are designed to be as bolt-on as possible, but Aries Automotive does caution that from time to time, these mounting holes aren't going to line up with the mounting holes in your body, and you may have to drill an additional hole or two. These are going to mount using nut certs, which is a very solid way of mounting, and it keeps you from having to get to the back side of your bolt to hold a nut in place, which is something I like. However, nut certs can be a little bit difficult to install without a nut cert installation tool. Aries does include a small tool that will help you to get those nut certs installed, but it's not a rivet style nut cert installation tool, which is really the easiest style to use. You can certainly rent one of those other tools to make installation a little bit simpler, or use what Aries includes. It'll just take you a little bit more time. Either way, using nut certs for the installation of these flares is going to make a very solid installation. So getting a little bit more into the installation, as I said before, I am going to give this a 2 out of 3 wrenches, and it is going to take you around an hour, maybe a little bit more per pair of flares that you're installing. So a little bit over 2 hours if you're doing all 4 to make them match. The first step is, of course, removing your factory flare, which is a fairly simple process. Up front, you're just going to have to remove the turn signal, then remove a couple of bolts that are holding the factory inner fender liner in place, and finally just give a good pull and that flare will pop off. From there, you'll have to remove the remnants of the plastic clips that held it in place to free up the holes that you're going to install the nut certs into to get your new fender flares installed. Out back, it's pretty similar. There are a couple of push pins that you're going to have to release, as well as some plastic Christmas tree clips, and then just give the flare a pull to release it. Now, when you go to install these, you are going to want to hold them up to the side of the Jeep and see which holes align and which ones don't. If you have some holes that don't align, you're going to have to go ahead, mark, center punch, and drill those holes out. After that, you can use the nut-cert installation tool that's included. Finally, it's just a matter of holding the flare up to the side of the Jeep and bolting it in using the included hardware. Now, out back and in front, Aries does include some instructions on how to trim those factory inner fender liners if you want to reuse them with your flares, which is a nice feature. I personally like running inner fender liners, and the fact that they include those instructions is really nice. Now, you aren't going to need any specialty tools to get these installed, just your traditional hand tools. However, as I've said a couple of times now, a nutsert installation tool, whether you purchase one, you already have one, or you rent one, is going to make installing those nutserts a lot easier and a lot less of a headache. These flares come in at right around $380 a pair, which is about $30 more than a steel flare of a similar design. However, I consider the fact that these are aluminum to be an upgrade over steel, and I think $30 isn't that much more to pay for the aluminum flares. You pair that with the fact that you're getting a really solid form of installation by using the nutserts in the body, even though they are a little bit more difficult to install right off the bat, and I think you are going to get a really good deal with these flares from Aries. So if you're looking for a flat metal fender flare, either because you like the look of the more open fender wells, or because you want the additional protection for your Jeep, this is going to be an option that isn't much more than steel and gives you an aluminum flare that will mount very securely onto your Jeep. So that's my review of the Aries Automotive tubular fenders fitting all 2007 and up JKs that you can find right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.